Welcome to this special from Windows on the World. We're going to be talking about the perfected Mindfield, and it's part of a new series. And it's going to be a series of statements which help to get the information across, very much like the Protocols of Power, which was an 11-part series. And the perfected Mindfield is all about how to align fully with the highest information field, because if we align with imperfect information, then it tends to drag everything else down with it. In other words, you just have one thing wrong and the whole thing's wrong. So how do you actually get to a higher information field? Well, all is explained in this video, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think about this way of presenting information, because I'm going to be putting out a whole series along these lines, and I'd like to get your feedback on that. So hope you enjoy it, and let me know what you think.
The connection to what is known as the divine, the highest governing authority or intelligence known as God, has many obstacles around it. These obstacles are of a lower nature. We have discussed them at length in our shows on cults. These take control of a group and keep them away from their direct source. All cults and religions do this. The gatekeeping of knowledge within controlled religion keeps the masses away from their own source, their connection to the highest intelligent creator through a priesthood. A priesthood themselves indoctrinated with only a second-hand foundation of knowledge. This is the same in all organized religions. Knowing this can make it easier to circumvent the middlemen and their misleading rules which disempower the individual when being part of a collective groupthink or egregor. Egregor is an occult concept representing a thought form or collective group mind. It is a non-physical entity that arises from the collective thoughts of a distinct group of people, a belief system. We have covered the collectivizing of all into groups, something for everyone. This is known as the system of moods. One step further is how bioenergetic principles attract people unconsciously as well as consciously. Those who are susceptible to cults and attracted to groups which are below the highest information field all fall into these biosystems or egregors. They resonate with the group biodynamic and become captive to it. In the long term, this leads to willful, arrested development. They may gain some knowledge, but it is within a hierarchy. The priesthood control the flow of information. Therefore, it is inorganic. Therefore, it is anti-divine and anti-nature. Most people allow themselves to be captured in this way. These thoughts have coincided with what the shows are all about, a clear and lucid explanation of how governance on Earth operates. All this explained through the global governance system of control. Most importantly, we find out how the natural principles of divinity can be reached. This is through the belief in God, the highest creator, not a God represented by some icon or image, but the true natural order which is holistic and interacts with all creation as it is creation. As the globalists have equated themselves as equal and more controlling than the highest creator, their system is doomed. It cannot work as it goes against the natural order. Therefore, they have aligned themselves with a doomed system. They are degenerating life. This is anti-nature. They are destroying intelligence and suppressing knowledge which would usurp their global order. This order is based on subversion of the natural order, and consent is enforced through lies. Therefore, it is unnatural. So, it is only kept going through enforcement and manufacturing consent through lies. The real goals are always hidden under the lies which are used to manufacture consent to this control of all and the plundering of the global commons. We are talking essentially about the information field. It can be called the unified field, the holistic unifying force of God through nature, and the uninterrupted biofield. Most important is to go to the source of the highest intelligence, and that cannot be done in any church, congregation or group. It takes time in solitude and peeling away all distracting layers of lesser intelligences. The channeling of incorrect information The false deities or lower intelligences that masquerade as the highest governing factor are there to trap the unwary. The term God has become subjective rather than objective reality. This, though, has nothing to do with organised religion or cults. Never have there been more traps than there are now. Most have been trapped into groups or cults to some extent. Some have been absorbed completely. The globalist cult of Gaia and climate change apocalypse cult are the false major religions, with their priesthood and false prophets under their god, the World Bank and global corporations. The word biofield describes how interactive information is sent and received. The conscious whole of the body, the mind and soul system, interacts with energy systems that are transmitted and received. The interaction between two or more of these biofields is known as an egregor. In this presentation, we mean this as a collective mind, a collective entity. These conductors of information have also been categorized as collective consciousness when used as a term for groupthink. Through the biofield of a person, everything is perceived at once through oscillations. This is how the biofield interacts with information connected to it through the ether, as the Victorians used to call it. Ether is a good word for the biofield. It has never been bettered as it most adequately describes the unified field of information. No technology can measure information like the human organism. It is a more complex system than any known to science. Unlike any device or program, the hierarchy of a living creation is complete and continuous. It contains all information with and of itself. Self-monitoring, self-regulating, and continually sentient. It also interacts continuously on subtle levels using systems which are unknown to science. Thus, the living organism as a whole possesses a more subtle and advanced informational structure than the whole of the available technology of science. The codes in nature and its frequency ranges are outside the knowledge of scientific classification. This is the whole of the problem with any talk of artificial intelligence or AI systems. They are not comparable to the natural system. They do not function at all like the complex holistic systems of nature. Functioning programmable robots do exist. These are primitive and none are sentient by definition. When we look at these robots being displayed, they are ridiculous. They are as ignorant as those who program them. This is nowhere near the intelligence of the living organism. Technology is inferior to nature. It has low sensitivity in all its vectors. It has lower resolution, low ability of discernment and recognition. This is due to the crude technical means of conversion of information. The information can also degrade from carrier to carrier. Artificial wombs and egregors come about through lack of self-governance, as in direct communication with the source of direct information. Egregors or groupthink, bioentities, come from constructed views which cause resonance within the individual. This comes from attraction to certain beliefs which support already implanted information. The resonance of belief systems attract a person to groups of egregors of thought and belief. So, in modern society, technology takes domination over an ignorant or indoctrinated person, one that is not fully aware. The modern system of education creates an artificial womb of beliefs. These are merely to channel the information into intended control vectors. Natural processes of energetic informational exchange flow objectively between a person and the highest creation. This is interrupted by these egregors of implanted information, which then become belief. So, those not connected to the greater intelligence, the system of God or highest creator, can be trapped, denying themselves access to the direct source of pure information. The highest field of information is outside the technological base of science. This is known but never admitted by the technocrats and their governing system. What people do not know, that which is outside their belief system, is available to them, but the artificial wombs absorb and distract from the need for this essential external knowledge, essential for sustenance of the natural order and highest functioning biosystem. This capturing is done in many ways, not just through technology and media channels. It is done through belief groups. There is a saying, man is the measure of all things. In this instance, it means that we are born with the ability to measure, but our ability to measure is only as effective as our knowledge base and self-awareness. Awareness as in decoding the information field correctly. If the person is attracted to lesser information, they will become trapped in these lower schemes of technology and of course computer processing, which is of temporary and inferior interest. These systems of interruption are of interest primarily to the zombifiers of mankind. In the true reality, the person perceives information through his biofield from the entire creation. This ability is interrupted by consent through artificial wombs and egregors of information. These egregors resonate with the beliefs of the person. These beliefs can be detrimental and without foundation. These beliefs attract the person to certain groups and certain beliefs, which trap them in a lower field of information. This is the entire purpose of the divide and rule system, and the cover story versus the real story, which is behind it. We have talked about this simplistic interruption of the energy field in many shows. You may be familiar with this concept if you have any awareness of the false reality being imposed upon you. Emissions of the same information by many people generate an energetic informational groupthink or egregor. These groups or groupthink egregors are classified according to their type and influence, or what type of energy potential and outcomes they have. This is according to how it is externally steered, what governs it. Governance of these thought groups can be through types of genetics, physiology, genetic emotional makeup, or type of psyche, or just the mood of the particular time. This forms a community of thought and intention. There are different levels of intelligence in these groups, something for everyone. They can be complementary to other groups or antagonistic. For and against can create the intended outcome. A third way, they become participants in a game being played out through higher up disruptive intelligences which their thought group actually knows nothing of. In other words, people participate in group action which is detrimental to them, but they do not have access to the higher level of information which is being used to steer them. In the energetic or material world, as of course energy is a transitional form of matter, people generate egregors in the same way as power plants and devices connected to a network. They can therefore be organized into an informational processing network hub, like a bunch of computers all connected to each other. They become a system removed from their own true psyche. The measure of the groupthink effectiveness is in its power as a governance strategy and container of information. Of course, these thought groups cannot exist without people who coincide with them. Therefore, they are a choice. Are they the right choice? The complete knowledge of the group is higher than that of the individual within the group. An egregor is much more powerful than its individual parts or people. A person, however, is more complex than a machine, and the possibilities of energetic informational exchange between people are much wider than in any computer network. However, many of these groupings are not effective and all are inferior to the highest system of governance or God. The technosphere may influence the biosphere, but the biosphere is superior in intelligence. In a computer simulation or computer game, there is zombification, which can result in complete absorption of the psyche through the drawing on and engagement of the biofield and through tricking the brain into believing that this 3D enclosure which envelops them is real. The whole of the person becomes immersed in the immediate reality, which they react to accordingly. This has been helped by the concept or egregor of parallel universes and simulation theory. These are globalist distractions to take the psyche away from the true source and disempower it completely. Anything disconnected from its source suffers a spiritual demise, yet still functions as a biorobot and can of course be useful. So, along with depopulation, the biorobotization of the masses through groupthink is preferable to connection to the divinity of the true creator, the uninterrupted unified field where the true information field actually resides. It resides higher than in any of these artificial wombs, and connection can only be established to the true source through the elimination or discarding of these inferior belief groups. So, Although with the help of technology, it is possible to contribute to the formation and activity of egregors, the crudeness of technology in comparison with the human body does not compare with a mere bio-robot. The one who is aligned with creation, according to God's predetermination, is superior to those disconnected from it or connected to inferior groups. This is of course the problem with artificial intelligence, or what it really is, autistic intelligence. Those who believe it is real intelligence are themselves already bio-robots. For those who have lost control through programming, or those that do not want to use their brain as it was created, the technosphere attracts them. It attracts the uncreative, the mindless, those out of touch with true reality. Those that are attracted to the technosphere rather than creation are wired in an inferior way to those who can see beyond its inferior status. The scientific view and computerized operating system and its programs are vastly inferior and incomparable to a holistic functioning creation. Those that say otherwise are retarded by definition and disconnected from the source of the highest intelligence. So people are attracted to these different egregors because of the information they are carrying at a particular time and through their system of belief. This system is not necessarily a representation of anything real or useful. Also, these systems can complement each other or be in conflict. The egregors are not formed from matter, but through the biofields of those who are connected to them. So, they are in this way organic creations of a lower intelligence than the super divine intelligence sought after by more advanced thinkers. Lifelong belief systems form these egregor groupings. This can be belief in ancestors, spirits, or past lives. This is a trap which keeps people until death, and possibly after, if they are immersed entirely. The biofields of people who support these egregors do so until death, unless there is a successful interruption through another biofield, or a need to connect to a higher source. Those who use the word channeling for connection to a biofield are easily misled, as they are not connecting to the highest source, but most likely lower dimensional entities who also mislead, as they themselves are trapped and have no connection to the divine source. This term channeling also echoes back the expectations or delusions of the channeler, unless they are connected to the highest governing authority or God. No one knows where this information came from. Was it accurate? At worst, this practice can also open up the biofield for demons to enter. So, an egregor is a factor of governance which inhabits a person's personality and attracts them through belief. Actions of people connected to it are coordinated through it by belief and purpose. It contains all the knowledge of the participants, and through this organizes the activities of the people contained within it. It contains collective algorithms of all the people who are in the group. This can be described as collective consciousness, an objective social phenomenon, or spiritual group collectivism. It is bigger than the sum of its parts. The ideology of it can energetically and metaphorically carry people away. It can burn them out, energetically crush them, or even devour them completely. So, the connection to the divine source is paramount. The information field and the egregors which capture people are all in the way. Finding this out and finding the way through it is the most important of all goals. This is precisely why everything is being done to stop it from happening. So, those who say they are awake are also trapped in these groupthink biofields, unless of course they connect to the highest source. This takes awareness which most have not yet accessed, but it is there behind all egregorial distractions.